Welcome, everyone, to the David Seaton Show. We are doing our Thursday live at 7 p.m. as promised. Remember, you can follow the David Seaton Show, and we are going to be doing our shows live on Sundays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays at 7 p.m. And we have got a really exciting guest for you this evening. Joining us live this evening is none other than Tyrone Muhammad. He is actually an independent who is running for U.S. State Senate, the seat that will soon be vacated by Dick Durbin. Quick shout out to anybody and everybody who is on the feed. I see Brian Boone. He checked in really early as a new member. Welcome to the show. Solution Mike chiming in right at 7:01. Again, everybody, do me a favor. Share this show. We want to get as many people aware of Tyrone's candidacy as possible. This is going to be a really lively discussion. And I'm promising Tyrone up front that we are going to let each other continue and get all of our thoughts out before we start arguing with each other, because we usually agree on about 50 to 60% of what it is that we talk about. But we're going to be talking about Chicago. We're going to be talking about the Safety Act. We're going to be talking about this violence that's going on in Chicago. And you don't want to miss the end of the show, because I've got some more critiques for Brandon Johnson. He just does not disappoint. But before we do that, let me go ahead and share our sponsor. Our sponsor this evening is going to be none other than Maytag Laundry. They are the sponsor of tonight's show. Let me go ahead and play their promo, and we will be off to the show. And we thank Maytag Laundry for sponsoring tonight's show. Again, they are a U-Haul dealership. They do a pickup and drop off laundry. So if you have a senior person in your family who has less mobility, if you're just a busy parent or a busy individual and you don't have time to give a lot of attention to your own laundry, and especially if you're a business, that could be a restaurant, a spa, it could be a team, a sports team, it could be a school. If you're a hospital or a senior living facility and you have overflow work, you can partner with Maytag Laundry. They are located in Glendale Heights, Illinois, and you can visit them at www.maytaglaundryservice.com. We've been getting a lot of inquiries about people who want to sponsor the David Seaton Show. So if you are interested, just email us at thedavidseatonshow@gmail.com, and we will go ahead and just whatever pricing that you have, whatever budget that you have, we want to go ahead and share this information to as many people as possible. So I don't want to hold him any longer. He's been hanging out, joining us live, Mr. Tyrone Muhammad. Thanks for joining the David Seaton Show, sir.
Thank you, my brother, for having me and wanting to have me.
Hey, man, you and I have always had a great time. We always had great conversations on WVON. I'm no longer with that organization anymore, so I wanted to give you a platform here so we can discuss your candidacy. So before we get into all of what's going on in Chicago and Illinois, I want to give you the opportunity to speak to our listeners and tell them about your candidacy to become the next senator for the great state of Illinois.
Man, thank you for the opportunity. Yeah, David. Just after listening to the people that I serve in the communities, and they wanted me to run as an alderman. They said, since you always fighting politicians, won't you run? And once I thought about it and said, yeah, I think I can win a local alderman position. Then as I started researching and looking into it, David, I realized that the legislators have legislated against ex-felons running for local political positions, aldermen, mayor, and I think county board president, commissioners, and things of that sort. So, municipal jobs. So, but the oxymoronic nature of the politics in Illinois is that I can run for the two highest office in the land. That's president and the United States senator, but I can't run for a local alderman or a local mayor. And that was puzzling to me. So, in my efforts to push against this two-party system that we have, I said, you know what? I'm going to run as United States Senate. And that was before anybody got in the race. If you can remember, I was talking about this U.S. Senate because I understood that Dick Durbin was no longer going to run. So I've been on this path and this journey for almost a year now, just prepping the people and just looking into how is that really possible, and if not possible, understanding the total concept of the politics in Illinois, meaning that as an independent, if I win 5%, when I win or win 5% of the vote, I'm allowed to create my own political party. We can call it the David Seaton Party. But I'm only saying to you that 5% of that vote, I get that from Inglewood. So it's an opportunity to push against the establishment and an opportunity for us to, just bring voters participation in the new voter block and voters awareness to the systemic thing that we have when it comes to our voting and our power to other vote.
No, that's a great opening, and I'm glad that you framed it that way. I do. Let me ask you this, because when I was actually the last time that I was on WVON, it was on primary night, and Jesse Jackson Jr. lost, and I believe he lost for two reasons. I'll even say three. Number one, he lost because he thought he was going to be able to trade on his name and get some coattails from his father having just passed. My condolences to the Jackson family. Number two, I think he lost because he was an ex-felon. And number three, I don't think he ever gave a real apology or an acknowledgement of the mistakes that he made while he was a U.S. representative that led to him being arrested. So, for those individuals who are listening to us tonight who might have some trepidation about having a political representative who is an ex-con, tell people why that's either an asset or why that shouldn't be a disqualifier from being and or running for public office.
So let me say this, David. We live in a country of laws and a constitution. So when a man pay his debt to society by a constitutional, a judge, and a jury of their peers, their debt should be settled. You was convicted to that term of imprisonment based on what legislators have put forth as a proper penalty for a crime. Now, the judgment that happens as a result of people's emotions and feelings as it relates to reentry and the person serving that time is between them and God. But the Constitution affords everyone an opportunity to amalgamate back into society to useful citizenship. As it relates to someone running for office, you must understand that in this case of you just mentioned Jesse Jackson Jr., I disagree with you. I would attest that he didn't use his returning citizen status enough. The districts that he was in, if he would have, it's 8 communities in towns in this city of Chicago, communities where returning citizens go to. He, in my opinion, if he would have galvanized and mobilized that base, he should have won the election. But because they tried to stay away from what you just said, they didn't even apologize. He didn't talk about it as much. They tried to stay away from that. In this case of me being the United States Senate, it's 3 million ex-felons in the state of Illinois. America is the most incarcerated nation in the world. And Illinois is the most wrongful conviction capital in the whole union. So my goal is to make the return of citizens, which is the highest voting block of any group, Jews, LGBTQ, anybody, ex-felons is the highest because each ex-felon brings with them, if they're knowledgeable, 3 to 4 to 5 people that's going to vote their interest. It's 20 women in my family, and all of them would vote my interest. So all I'm saying to you is that I disagree in part of that. I've always stated that I was remorseful for my situation. That's why I came out and started an organization called Ex-Cons for Community and Social Change, because I, from the start, have taken personal responsibility for the issues that our own hands have created. Now, yeah, there's a conspiratorial plot in my mind to destroy black men and boys. But I'm not leaning on that. I'm saying that just because there are guns, just because there are drugs, just because there are issues that has got some nefarious activities going on in our community, I still take personal responsibility in teaching young men and boys and at-risk youth to not touch those things and to not play a part in victimizing their community, their women, and their children.
Let me ask you this, and this is gonna be my last question on this point because I don't want to waste a ton of time on this. I got some pushback when I did make that comment about Jesse Jackson Jr., and I was of the opinion that there are 700,000 people in that district. You can't tell me that you can't find one other person
That's
who is
right.
both qualified, who is not an ex-felon. So this, I guess this is my response to what you just said. I am not suggesting, neither am I suggesting, nor am I supporting by saying that because you are an ex-felon that you can't run for office. However, I am saying that one of the consequences of having gone to jail or having been a felon is that you might not be able to galvanize a majority of the necessary support to become elected. So those are two different issues. Yes, you are still a US citizen. You still have rights to run for that office. But if you have a right to run for that office, don't people have a right to say, I'm not comfortable with picking someone who has this past?
Well, and they should also have an issue with reading the Bible. Who with Paul was a murderer, so they should never even read that book or pick it up again. Because if they're gonna use that as the basis of their argument, I can show you historically bad men who became servants and messengers of God, even Malcolm X. So I'm not leaning on that because I can't call myself a believer in God and that God is a worker of miracles and that God is a forgiver of sins. We need not pray no more. We need not do all of that because we need to defect from America because I haven't seen enough remorse from the founding fathers' children of the murder and the death of black bodies that has been from the transatlantic slave trade. So we're going to use those as the basis of people past as the basis of their future, then we need to leave America today, my brother. So in the case of Jesse Jackson Jr., he was in elected office. I'm not in elected office. I do real community work right now. More than any elected official, pompous, boule class, or black person, white person, or whoever, I do more work in these communities than the people who think they're more qualified than I am. And that's my thing. I'm gonna let my work speak for me, and I'm gonna let the people decide. Because it's more people that's like me and regular people than it is the people who will actually judge and act as though my past is the basis for their vote. But it's too many voters. Only in the primary, I think you can correct me, David, if I get it wrong. Only only 19, 20 some percent of the people came out to vote anyway. I'm going
That's
for the 80.
that's correct.
I'm
That's
going for the
correct.
80 to say, hey, I'm here. I'm present. When I go down state, because they asked me to run as a Republican, I told that makes no sense in Illinois. You cannot win as a Republican. And Republicans have been found lacking in wanting in our community, just as well as the Democrats. And I said, so it's time for us to create a third party that creates a balance that then allow us to put forth our issues and our policies that will help our community. Because we've had both parties, brother. Regardless of what we say about it, both parties have claimed to serve the people. I'm only saying that as an independent, I'm gonna create my own lane. I'm not trying to follow the Democratic lane of those people that systemically vote the same way, hook, line, and sinker all the time. And I'm not trying to follow the conservative notion of the Republicans who would never see a cause to ever vote for Tyrone Muhammad or anybody that look like me. So I'm only saying to you that we're gonna create our own lane. We're gonna create the independent party, and we a movement, and then we'll determine what that party gonna look like after we make this ballot.
No, I think that's a valid response. I brand myself as a conservative independent because I don't agree enough with the platform in either the Democratic or the Republican Party. So I'm definitely with you
I
there.
welcome you on my team, David. I really need that thought process. See, I don't know everything, so I'm not gonna lean on my own understanding. I'm not. That's the problem with politicians. You ask them what's their platform. The people shouldn't be asking no politician with no rehearsed platforms is that they all have. You should be telling the politician what platform he gonna be representing, and that's the problem with us not even having a vote and really being ignorant and unknowledgeable as to how our vote should work and how our elected officials should be utilized for our service. Because at the end of the day, you're a public servant. You're not a socialite. You're not a king. You're not a ruler. You're not a dictator. We
Agreed.
not under that. You, David, got to tell me, Tyrone, based on this, this is the policy I think that should be best served for us to deal with public safety and crime. I have to take those things into account. And then up and down the state of Illinois is different from Chicago. I can't take
Sure.
Chicago issues down where they love their guns, where they love their freedom, where they love their
Sure.
farming, where they love their big trucks and their gas, and they love to frack and drill. I can't take that same measure of what we are with the environment in a liberal community. I got to be the United States Senator for the whole state of Illinois and its people and constituents. And that's the problem a lot of time with the Democrats. I think they think that everybody should follow their way and rule or else they cancel.
No, I think that's an excellent point, and that's an excellent critique of the Democratic Party. I have no shortage of critiques for them. Let me just give some shout outs real quick to people who are in the chat. As always, Savannah out in Ohio, Karen Hicks here locally in Chicago. Shout out to them. Looks like you've got some people in the chat for you, brother. We got is it Marion Beck who's in here? Patah up there from Minnesota. We got Patah. As a matter of fact, I'm going to have him on because we got to get some ground information from him. We've got correctional officer, great brother, great supporter of the show, and I have to give a shout out to my guy. Where is his post? Eric. He's. I think I showed his post just a moment ago, and he is a really good friend and a really good follower of the show. And he posted best show on the planet. So I gotta go ahead and give him a shout out. Let's play a couple of clips. I've got a couple of clips that we have to talk about. And the one of these is really unfortunate. This just happened the other day. I want to play this for you, Tyrone, and because
Okay.
we've got several people who are asking about team takeovers and what's going on. But we don't have to make this a national conversation. Let's keep this to Chicago, because if we can solve it for Chicago, I believe we can solve it for everyone. But let me go ahead and play this clip really quickly. This just happened a couple of days ago. An 8-year-old girl and 2 adults were wounded in Chicago. This is so unfortunate.
Busy place, a neighborhood gathering spot. We are at Lake Meadows Shopping Center, where they're still cleaning up here. Police say that someone in a vehicle fired shots at the Dunkin' Baskin Robbins here, striking 3 people. Police say that multiple shots were fired by at least one person riding in a dark-colored SUV that drove toward the victims. The window of the Dunkin' was shot out. Police focused on gathering evidence inside the Subway sandwich shop. Now, an 8-year-old girl was shot in the foot. She's reported in good condition. A 28-year-old female shot in the knee. She's in good condition. And a 24-year-old male was struck in the arm, chest, and groin area. He's at Stroger Hospital. in good condition. Neighbors say the coffee shop is always busy. Seniors play chess there. Kids hang out. And a few doors down, people were working out in the gym. They came outside to find a crime scene.
It's very scary um, to know this is happening while we're in the gym. It's a active neighborhood. People are always outside. It's a little scary to know that.
It's terrible. It's sad that there be so many people out here, and a lot of these people, they can't even get in their cars. You're nervous about somebody stealing and robbing your stuff in the you know what I'm saying, before you come up out the gym. It's sad that we can't really do nothing.
And that story just broke the other day. And what leapt out to me in that story, Tyrone, is that an 8-year-old
I
girl
can't hear you,
got
Dave.
shot. Can everyone hear me in the chat? Just because really quickly, just go ahead and just say yes, you can hear me.
I can't. Let's see.
Yeah, Tyrone, why don't you go out and come back in? Try that.
The sound is off. Is it me? Let me make sure it's not me.
It's you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh wow. It's not on mute. Let's get this done.
Okay.
This is real. Should I go out and come back in?
Yeah, try that. Try that. Okay, so we're gonna let him go out, come back in. And so when I saw that story, these are just people who are just going about their normal lives. They're sitting in a Dunkin' Donuts. They're like the seniors are playing chess. The people are going to work out. Someone does a drive-by shooting, and an 8-year-old girl gets shot in the foot. Gratefully, she didn't have any, she didn't lose her life, or she didn't have anything, worse than that. Let me see.
I can hear you now.
Okay. So you heard the clip that I just played, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so 8-year-old girl gets shot in the foot. Another woman gets shot in the leg. Another man gets shot in the arm, chest, and groin. And this is broad daylight. This is just Black people. And I won't even make it racial. These are just Americans. These are just citizens, just going about their daily lives. Old people playing chess in the Dunkin' Donuts, people out there working out. And in midday, someone drives by and shoots at this area. If you listen to Mayor Brandon Johnson, he'll tell you this is the safest big city in the United States. And then you see things like that. What are your initial thoughts?
Well, I spoke to I go frequently to that Dunkin' Donut. I know the owner of the Dunkin' Donut and the Subway. But I'm going to say this, David, and I always like to keep it real. Long before Brandon Johnson was the mayor, that area was a hot spot. That area with Lori, with Daley, has always been a hot spot. What happens is people are allowed to lauder and hustle in those spaces. There's no different from the way we are allowed to openly hustle down Madison in broad daylight. And even if you point to the mayor, that's still the police department is 35th Street, right down the street, the Michigan headquarters, where they have complained about that space for a long time. They've been talking for over 4 or 5 years that I know of specifically about that corner. And that mall has security. The very notion and the fact that mall has security and that much activity still occurs at that mall, there should be some penalties, some fines, and there should be some oversight, because that's a lot of people, American citizens, come and go and frequent that mall, and there's no sense of safety and protection for our community. And I'm it's unfortunate, man, that in a space like that, from what I see, there's a lot of unemployment in that area that hasn't been solved either. So here we are talking about what violence, and I always say violence need a job, David. And I always say that you can't have this much disinvestment. You can't have this much funding going everywhere in the world but yet we suffer in these communities. That's like three of the biggest subsidized housing projects, buildings across the street. I don't know. I think Cam Buckner operate from that building. And I don't know if it's Jonathan Jackson that operates from that building as well. You got two elected officials that's across the street while all of this crime and illegal activity takes place. So if I was an elected official while operating out of those buildings, I would ensure and make sure that my constituents are safe to go to and fro and clean that corner up. But the fact is, most of these elected officials are not in tune with the issues and ills of our community, nor do they care, because most of them don't live in these communities that they serve anyway.
Well, you make an interesting point when you use the word disinvestment. And that's a word that I often hear Brandon Johnson talk about. That's one of his favorite words, as a matter of fact. But it's a chicken and the egg situation as I see it. Yes, you have disinvestment. Disinvestment, the definition of the word disinvestment means there was once investment there and someone took it away. Why did they take it away? Because of incidents like this. Let me show you this other video. This is another video of someone else who recently, again, living in Black Chicago, and this individual got shot. I believe this individual was in his home, if I'm not mistaken on this one. Let me make sure I have the correct video up. StreamYard does a weird way of putting these videos together, so I'm trying to find the right one. But let me see, where is it? I'm sorry, everybody. Give me 1 second. I want to make sure I play the right
Take your
one.
time. Turn the light on. Look.
Yeah, here it is. Here it is. Here it is.
Local news now. Chicago police investigating after a man was seriously injured in an overnight shooting.
Winnie Dorch is live in the Belmont-Cragen neighborhood with the latest on this. Winnie, what's going on?
Hey, good morning. So we are live here at LeClaire and Montana Street. Police officers are going door to door asking questions if they've seen anything or heard anything. We interviewed a neighbor who tells me her community app told her something went terribly wrong just a few doors down. Around 1 a.m. in the 5100 block of West Montana Street.
Person shot at 5125 West Montana, 5125 West Montana. Husband was shot.
A 25-year-old man was about to go inside an apartment building. As he was doing so, a suspect walked up, pulled out a gun, and began to shoot the victim several times. Myra Martinez heard yelling, but wasn't sure if it was the victim, a family member, or the suspect.
I just heard was some commotion and then some yelling. I heard some yelling, and then that's when minutes later, I heard the ambulance and the police.
Heard someone yelling. What were they saying?
I just no, like something it wasn't clear, but it's no, like something like that.
The suspect got away. The Chicago Fire Department arrived minutes later to treat the victim on scene. He was taken to Illinois Masonic Hospital. Martinez says, unfortunately, nothing good ever happens in the middle of the night.
So that's two stories back to back. And we've got these random shootings. So when I hear people blame disinvestment, or when I heard what you just said a moment ago, it strikes a chord. When you say violence needs a job, jobs and investment don't go where they're safe, where they don't feel safe.
Absolutely.
That's just the bottom line. We keep pretending like, especially in Black Chicago, we keep pretending like, oh, if we just pour billions of dollars into these unsafe areas, that will solve the problem. But the money is not going to go there if it doesn't feel safe. What say you?
I agree with you. I'm not even. I've said it before, and I think you viewed a few times, David, when we were securing the CTA. The CTA will lose money if the ridership falls off, and that should be one of the things you want to secure. Transportation has to be secure. There must be a safety mechanism on transportation. Yet they did not pull the trigger on making sure that community involvement was a part of it. David, at the end of the day, the police can't solve everything. It's impossible. At some point, David, we can stop pointing at the mayor. We can stop pointing at the governor. They can stop pointing at Trump. At some point, David, like I've done, I've taken personal responsibility to get in front and be on the front line of trying to help solve some of these local societal ills. Because all politics is local and all communities are local. So if we never, I mentor over 80 at-risk youth, David, young men. I just interviewed some young men today that was at risk, but they got an upward trajectory towards transforming their lives. And the one thing they keep talking about, David, we don't have nothing to do. It's not like when you and I was young, David. When these young men and boys, we was able to go to park districts. We was able to go to the Woods Theater, to Mac Victor's. We had Huffies. We had Swins. We had super transfers where we was able to explore a whole city, man. We was able to take $10 and go to the movie, to Treasure Chest, and the likes. I may be aging myself, but we was able to do that. Man, black people can't even afford to park downtown. Black people can't even afford a two-way. And I'm saying not just black people, brown, white,
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm only saying because I can only speak for my community. I don't play that all of that. How can you fix the neighbor's house when your house is dirty, when your house is foul? I believe in fixing your own house. That's why I always been against billions of dollars going to non-citizens over the people of the community that been suffering for a long time. Since I've been born, I've never had a Republican run Inglewood. It has always been black Democrats. So I don't get caught up in that, David. It's not just a branding problem. This is a black man problem. This is a black man problem and a parenting problem that has been that way for a long time. Because the Clinton, you saying the right thing, but you don't give enough fault to us as men. Because the Clinton 94 crime bill, it wiped us out. A lot of us. It took a lot of.
You saying a lot of different points. You saying a lot of different points. So I'm going to get to the Clinton crime bill in a minute, but I do want to post. Patah just posted something, and you kind of alluded to this. Accountability is lacking big time amongst our people. You mentioned that you can't blame politicians who need to put some accountability on parents, but you also said something else. You said your entire life in your neighborhood in Chicago, the politicians have been black Democrats.
Absolutely.
So I think that's an important point that we oftentimes, again, it used to frustrate me to no end to have conversations on the radio and have people talk about Donald Trump every single day, but they never made the connection that the aldermen and the people who are closest to you, you keep voting for one color and one race, and that person, the alderman and the mayor, has orders of magnitude more impact on your daily lives than anything the president can do. Whatever the president does has to come out of Washington, through Springfield, and then into Chicago. So is that a missed opportunity that black people in Chicago that are experiencing the worst circumstances keep blaming everything and everybody else except for themselves and their voting patterns?
So I often say that as someone who's running for United States Senate, Trump has really been given a mandate by the electorate to do what he's doing. Hate it or love it, elections have consequences. The worst thing you can do as a leader of a state is anger the CEO of the free world. Meaning that if my goal is to push my political narrative and not the people's narrative, then I'm shooting and working to position myself to be a presidential candidate over the people's issues. You cannot push an agenda, meaning that if you think your agenda supersedes the agenda of bringing resources, goods, contracts, and services to our community, to get us up and running as a community by disrespecting the person you are asking to send money to your community. That is so crazy to me. Meaning that if I'm the U.S. Senator, I would go before Trump and say, listen, you the president for everybody. That means Black America too. In Chicago. The hell with what JB is talking about and his playing and placating for the king of Illinois, placating to be the king of the United States government. And the hell with any elected official is talking about with this Trumpism. Mr. President, we need you to give us the necessary resources. If you have to send it through another entity, non-for-profits, the different non-for-profits that's not associated with that, then we're asking for you to help us, Mr. President. If violence is 76% up 76% in the 78% in the last 2 weeks, then Mr. President, we do need your help. We either need your resources or we need you to give us what we need so that we as Black men can take care of our own communities, our own children, and our own family members. At some point, I would rather see him give those resources to real reputable groups that's not tied to the establishment that has been receiving those resources for 20 years to no avail. Try to create new organizations and listen to new ideas on how we can get at this violence. I've given many new ideas. I've proven it in so many terms. So many times. Yet because I'm not a part of the patronists of J.B. Pritzker, I have nothing coming from that government. Not once. With all the work that I do, with all the violence that we intervene, over probably 2,000 shootings since I've been home from prison. I've been able, David, to put over 500 ex-cons to work. I mentor so many at-risk youth, yet I've never received one government grant. Yet I've never received one government grant, and then all of the money that was allocated to our organization by elected officials to do the community work, J.B. Pritzker took our resources and gave it to Equality Illinois and Northside organizations.
Let me say something to everybody who is in the chat, who is in the show right now. I appreciate everybody. I just need you to do me just one of three things, and it's your choice. You can take your choice on this one. I either need for you to like the show when you come in. I need you to share the show with 1 to 3 people, because this is great. This is a great conversation, and this needs to be in front of as many people as possible. And for those of you who are willing and have the means, you can financially support this show. You can do Venmo at DA Seaton, or you can do Cash App at $, the David Seaton Show. I just need 5 people to Cash App or Venmo $5. That's it. That's our goal for tonight, and that helps us continue to bring these types of conversations. And I appreciate everybody who's.
And I'm most definitely gonna send you something after the show.
I appreciate that, brother. Like I said, the easiest thing you can do is subscribe, like, and share. But if you do have the financial resources, like I said, that helps the show a great deal. Let me go back to what you said a moment ago, and I know I've said something like this to you before when we were on the radio. You mentioned the crime bill of 1994 and how that did a lot of harm to the Black community. I'm going to take a different approach. You and I are old enough to remember what inner city Black America looked like in the late 80s and in the early 90s, when crack was just a scourge on our communities. You and I are old enough to remember when they used to make jokes on Def Comedy Jam. And I remember this because I was in college in the early 90s. And I graduated from high school in 1991. I remember them making jokes on Def Comedy Jam that you could walk around a Black neighborhood at 2 o'clock in the morning and you could buy a VCR for $20 because some crackhead just broke into somebody's house and stole their VCR. The Black community back then, their argument was they were shaking their fist at the federal government and saying, see, you don't care about us because you're not helping us get this crime under control in our communities.
I remember.
Then the crime bill was passed, and it went through the inner cities with a sickle, because there was a lot of crime, there was a lot of drug use, there was a ton of movies that were made at that time, there were a ton of rap artists that rapped about what was going on at that time, and their careers were made. Then when we took the worst out of those communities and we put them in jail, now 30 years later, I think we have this revisionist history where we forget we were the ones asking the federal government to come in there. What's my point? My point is that for those of you out there who are listening to me, if you own a plant and you have a leaf that's dying on that plant, in order to save the plant, you have to prune that dead leaf off of the plant. Are we trying to save everybody when we need to really do some pruning? There's some people out here in our communities. I know that there are some people out here that are not reconcilable. They're going to be murderers and carjackers and whatever for the rest of their lives. We need to, in my opinion, sequester the worst of us from the rest of us so the rest of us can thrive. What say you?
And this is the problem with that analogy. We spend $2 billion on policing. We spend $1.8 billion on the Illinois Department of Corrections. We spend another $800 million on county jail systems. And that's without counting the juvenile and the court systems. So what am I saying to you? You think that you're going to incarcerate your way out of this, when in fact the prisons have become nothing but glorified warehouses. And you take in every ill and every moral deviant that ever languished and walked the face of the earth, and you put them all in one room, so that the moral deviants now then learn from each other criminal behavior and partnerships with other deviants. Then you release these deviants back into society, worse than when they went in, with no checks and balance as to who should come out, why they should come out, and what services there is to deal with behavior modification of thought processes while they're sitting still. The problem, David, is you lock them up, then I will ask you, what is the systems and mechanisms in play that actually checks behavior, look at moral ideations, look at all of these aspects of human cognitive behavior? Because 75% to 80% of the people that go in prison comes home and go back to the same communities worse off when they went in. There's no accountability, David, for your and my tax dollars that's being spent. So you release these terrorists right back on the community to terrorize without even knowing what is the consequences of sitting in a 9x12 cage like I was for 2 decades, without any psychological evaluations, without any moral evaluations, without any social engineering, without any educational opportunities, because they voted down Pell Grants in prison because someone said the kids was getting education, when the study shows that education reduced recidivism. So you take out the very tool that gave these men reformation. Me personally, David, while I sat in prison, I took advantage of the education because I'm self-taught, self-learned. So I didn't need the government. I didn't need correctional officers. I didn't need an establishment of anything to tell me I have to be a better person when I came home. So I earned 2 associate's degrees. And I earned a cosmetology degree. I earned 2 automotive basic and advanced degrees. I earned a substance abuse counseling degree. I earned what else I get? A horticulture degree. See, I took advantage of every opportunity that I had on my own.
Let me say this.
Go
Let me say this. Based on everything that you have just said, would you say, comparing Tyrone Muhammad to the average individual who's in prison, are you the exception or are you the rule?
I am the exception.
Stop right there.
But let me say this.
Stop right there. Stop right there.
Go
Wait,
ahead.
stop right there.
Yep.
That's my point. My point is, wait. I'm simply saying that we need to have some sort of structure in place where we can identify the potential of a Tyrone Muhammad and put our resources into him. But if you're saying that you're the exception to the rule, that means the majority of people, like you just said, are going to go to jail, they're going to come back out, and they're going to be worse than when they went in. There's a very simple way.
And I would say that's, David, is not true. I
You
have
just
over
said
two.
that.
No, listen. I'm the exception. I'm saying I am the exception. But what I'm saying is, I left over 200 sons in that prison who lives that I have personally interacted and intervened in and transformed their thought processes. You are not gonna reach the little person that I'm gonna reach. So if put it like this, there are modifiers you can put in play that force and then encourage. You have no encouragement to transform or change in prison. You have to go there to really understand how, if Tyrone Muhammad could have just sat there and been watch TV and play cards for all my whole bit without anybody telling me to do anything. That is unacceptable for my tax dollars to house somebody to enjoy themselves. My tax dollars should, since those men are coming home, Dave, you can't keep nobody in prison forever who don't have the crime, don't fit the punishment. You can't have them in prison forever. That's evil, brother. That would be considered evil and immoral, right?
But
we have to then put they have people called Illinois Department of Correction directors.
Sure.
Like if I was Jim Mendricks, you know what Jim Mendricks said? He ran for gubernatorial candidate for governor. James Mendricks, DuPage County Sheriff.
Yeah.
You know what he said in a public meeting? He said, if I win the governor in Illinois, I will make people like Tyrone Muhammad, who understand the culture, who understand prison, who understand violence, who understand the streets, the IDOC director of corrections. And they like, what? And he had to break it down to him like, you don't know nothing about deviance. Your intellect don't prepare you to identify and to separate which one is most likely going to fail and need a little more attention, or which one is going to be set for a permanent stay in prison. So, David, that's what I'm saying. You're right to know how to separate, but we're wrong when we allow these men to sit there with your and my tax dollars to be released back in society worse than when they went in without any checks and balances. If they coming home anyway, and we spending money anyway, if you don't get your GED, you're not gonna make it out on time. There's no parameters there. They have none of that in play.
Yeah, hold on. Brian Boone posted, "I'm a working man. I guess this show is not for me." And we're going to get to some other issues, Brian. But I think the reason
why I say this to Brian?
Wait, hold on.
Oh, go ahead,
Brian. The reason why I think this is important is because Black people have a disproportionately higher percentage of incarceration. We have a disproportionately higher percentage of dropping out of high school. We have we're at the top of every bad list and the bottom of every good list as a group. And these are the types of conversations that we need to have as a community, because not every Black person goes to jail, but I think it's safe to say that every Black person knows of someone who has gone to jail. And that's why this is important. So please don't check out, because we are going to move on to some other issues.
Let me answer that. And so does he, and so do he. And furthermore, the work that I do, if you don't handle and deal with them young wolves, my brother, they're going to be home invasion and taking your hard working cars, your hard work and money, and even your potentially taking your family's life. So, brother, don't ever think that you separate and apart from this, because unless you live on Mars, you could be victim of the same thing we're talking about.
Okay, let's do this. Let's change tax for just a minute. Let's imagine it's November. Tyrone Muhammad is now the Illinois U.S. Senator and you're going to Washington D.C. What are the other than criminal justice? Because I do appreciate what Brian Boone said a moment ago, because oftentimes when people talk to Black people, when politicians talk to Black people, they move criminal justice to the top of the list. They make that one of the first things that they talk about. And that can be off-putting to people like me who haven't gone to jail, who's college educated, who's a business owner, who's an executive, who's a husband, a father.
But by the grace of God, that goes. Wait.
Tyrone. Don't confuse
I got you. I hear you.
Wait. Hold on. Don't confuse what I'm saying. I'm not saying that I can't wake up tomorrow and find myself in the circumstances where I might enter the criminal justice system. What I can say is that I make every decision possible over which I have control to avoid being involved in the criminal justice system. Might I fail? Sure. But I think that you and I can both agree that the majority of people who enter the criminal justice system voluntarily committed some act that caused them to have that justice experience. Can we agree on that?
I would. I say
Okay.
everyone they have a choice.
Perfect.
Although environments help encourage those choices, they do make an informed decision
Absolutely.
to chase after whatever it is they was chasing after.
Absolutely. So I think you and I are calibrated in that regard. So let's put criminal justice to the side. Wait. Let's put criminal justice to the side for a moment. What are your top 3 initiatives that you would undertake as a senator in Washington, D.C.?
It's just one reason why I love the strong man approach with the broader world that Trump has exercised, meaning that I think it's about, although we are suffering and hurting, like anything that's new, I think you're going to feel growing pains. That whole tariff, bringing back manufacturing, bringing back business, and you can agree on this. When my uncles and grandfathers came from Arkansas to the city to work for U.S. Steel or General Motors, they had trades and they had opportunity to build families, to create homes, to even have children, to send to college like a David Seaton. My grandfather and them and my grandmom did that for my auntie and them. But they was able to do that because they was able to have viable employment, and they consistently, to the point that they retired from the steel mill and General Motors. The tariffs and bringing manufacturing back to America to create a workforce that then deals with every American being able to have the skills of his hand, if not the skills of his hands, the ability to work in a corporate setting, not corporate, but a manufacturing that allows them to have viable income and create a family and to live free and hopefully debt free in America. So workforce development to me across the country, because Black men are the most unemployed on every socioeconomic level. We're at the bottom. We dying more than anyone from ages 12, 14 to 27. We are most likely to drop out. Black men. We are most unemployed. And the next thing for me is housing. How do we deal with housing? Here we are, David. My government, your tax dollars, was able to house Tyrone Muhammad for 21 years. 40, 50,000 a year of your tax dollars was given to house, feed, and clothe me. Yet when I return home from society, That same government, the House fed me for 20 years, has not even 3 years worth of housing to get me acclimated back to society. Why I'm on parole for 3 years? Because you're still a ward of the state while you're on parole. Therefore, the state should be taking care of that until you get yourself back on your feet. You can't take a man out of society. I have a 10-pound, 12-pound multiple puppy. He's never been in a cage in his life. Yet you release human beings from cages and then expect them to go on their own without ever shoring up their ability to survive. And I'm not
Okay.
asking the government, I'm telling you, employment opportunity, training. The other thing I like is
Wait,
to
hold
figure
on.
out.
Let me
Go
jump
ahead.
in because you mentioned two things. So let's go first with what you
Yeah.
said. You're talking about trades. You're talking about
Yes.
training people how
Yes.
so they can work with their hands. And we find ourselves in an
Because I went to
interesting-
CBS. I learned
Sure.
aviation power plant. I can fix any turbine engine from the age 16 to 18. I could break a 747 engine down, but I liked the game bang a little more. I could break it down. I could
But here's
break
the
it down,
question.
fix it,
Right.
and put it back on the plane.
Right.
And
What
that's
year
a
did you-
skill I learned
What
in
year
school.
did you hold on? What year did you graduate from high school?
89. I played football with Chris Zorich and basketball with Jawan Howard.
Okay, perfect. So that was in 1989. I graduated in 1991. So it's 2026. We're talking about 35 years for me, 37 years for you. Right now, we're looking at, my cousin just sent me a video the other day of Melania Trump. She was walking in the White House and she had a robot that was walking next to her.
Yep.
We're living in an age of AI, robots, robotic technology. Have we gotten, is our generation perhaps the wrong generation to really guide, younger people on what it is that they need to do? Because we're talking, some of us, our age, are talking from our experience. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure that it is the right path to say, hey, we need to teach young people how to work with their hands, because most of those jobs are going to be gone in the next 5 to 10 years. I just read something recently about attorneys and paralegals. They are being supplanted by artificial intelligence. This is a new technology that's going to cause a lot of displacement. I just wonder.
So how do you solve it, David? You can't incarcerate your way out of this.
No, we're not talking about incarceration. We're not talking about incarceration.
I'm only saying that we're gonna have to solve for unemployment. And I'm not saying they clearly don't have an answer, David. They haven't fixed it yet. From neither party.
Right. But in the Black community, this is the hard conversation that we need to have as a Black community. If you can't convince young people to graduate from high school and just be reading proficient for a 12th grader, in our neighborhoods, you have 65% or more of people, of Black children, boys and girls, who are graduating from high school, getting a diploma put in their hand, and they can neither read nor do math at grade level. Those individuals shouldn't even be graduating from high school. How the hell are they going to compete in a world that's being governed by AI and robots?
But guess what you're saying? You're talking about children. Suffer the children under me, said the Lord. See, it's not the children's fault. It's easy for us to talk about the children. It's these grown idiots' fault. It's these people who say they are smart and who have been going to college. That's the problem. At some point, David, you got to call a spade a spade. It's not the intelligentsia that's guiding America or guiding the populations. Man, I employ over 40 employees, women and children, men and women, ex-felons and none. The people that's legislating don't employ anybody, but yet they'll tell me what I should do with my business. So they hypocrites, man. They don't create nothing just because they got an education. They can't even produce a tax. They can't produce a tax revenue to all I'm showing you is that
I agree. I
We
agree
don't
that we
have
have
that.
too many, I agree with you
Yeah.
that we have too many politicians. And Brandon Johnson is a perfect example of this. Brandon Johnson has never run anything in the private sector. He's never been responsible for a profit and loss. He's never had to go out there and create a product or service that creates value that he can then go market to people and then sell it, generate revenue, and pay his expenses. And then he's looking at what's left. Karen Hicks just posted a moment ago that we need to do a better job of teaching our young people how to be entrepreneurs and how to be business owners. But my larger point to you is when you say that we need to have this renaissance of teaching people how to work, teaching young people how to work with their hands, I'm just asking the question, given where we are right now with technology, if that's really a realistic solution.
Well, it's
because
not
if you
totally.
go to Washington, D.C., you're going to be tasked with passing the laws that create the environment where people can be successful. That's ultimately all politicians do.
So this is my thing. I was in the school talking to some grammar school kids. And do you understand when I asked one of the children, where do vegetables come from? One of the kids told me from a can. See, somebody felling these babies. These babies not felling themselves.
Agreed.
They're felling at home. And if a teacher never taught them what photosynthesis is, what crop, how the sun and how that the sun and the rays affects the earth, the soil, and vitamins and everything. These babies don't even start with the basics of putting their hands in the soil. And we need to learn gardening. We need to learn horticulture. We need to learn these things and our children are not being taught that. And when I say use their hands, bro, I'm not saying that everybody is going to be about the business of manufacturing. We are the most consumer nation. We clearly got enough stuff being produced for us to consume. And that's why I say whatever being made anywhere else can be made over here. I understand the cost of goods go down as a result. I'd rather pay an extra $1 or $2 for a product that generate jobs for Americans than to pay an extra $1 or $2 less to generate revenue for somebody else. I'm saying that's me being a patriot. That's me being loving my country and where I will be willing to pay an extra price to produce in America made. That's the thing, David. It's somebody gonna want to be in the robotics. Somebody gonna want to be in aviation. Somebody ain't want. No matter who, I'm gonna tell you this. No matter what robotics they have, you do not want robots fixing on planes. I'm telling you, you want a human error dealing with that because that is a serious undertaking. Certain things are not gonna change. But I get you. I feel you. How do we find the jobs that can actually solve the issues of unemployment? And something that I think is probably going to be that we're going to have welfare in some form for the rest of our lives.
Now, I have to disagree with you there.
I'm saying, where's it going? Where's it going? What welfare going?
I'll answer for you.
Okay.
I'll answer for you. I personally know people. I had Jonathan Jackson on my show one time on WVON, and I told him that I know people, I know families that have been on food stamps and Section 8 and WIC multi-generationally for their entire lives. And I said to him, the only reason why people behave like that is because they know that they have the option to do so. If you told people tomorrow, and this is to me very simple, and this is how we're going to have to treat welfare. We're going to have to start putting time limits on it.
Oh, I like that.
Here's my idea. So tell me what you think of this as a politician.
Yes.
Here's my idea. This is how you tackle, this is how you could tackle babies out of wedlock, teenage pregnancy, and staying on welfare. I just have 3 simple rules. You cannot get on welfare until you are 26 years old. That's number one, because I know scores of women. Yeah, I'll say girls. I know scores of girls who plan their pregnancy around their 18th birthday so they can go get on Section 8. So I say, let's push that number to 26. That way they're forced to do something different between 18 and 26. That's the first rule. Second rule, get rid of women who can get state-sponsored child support attorney representation. If a man has to go out there and he has to pay for an attorney and he has to pay for a DNA test, blah, 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 then we should be making women do the same thing. That would make men and women make different decisions about arbitrarily having children out of wedlock. But number three, when you do turn 26, you have a 7-year bank of welfare. You can use it when you turn 26 and use it immediately, use it from 26 to 33. You can wait until you fall on hard times and use it, but you've got a bank of 7 years. And when you get to 7 years and 1 day, you got to figure it out, period. I think if we implemented some hard changes like that, it would force people to make different life decisions, and you wouldn't have this cradle to grave welfare, multi-generational living off of welfare. What do you think about that?
I think that's great. I just will add that if you giving somebody an ultimatum, then as government, I have to be there to gear you educational counselor to guide your career as well. So you can't just say, and when you say it, you're right, but then you not breaking it all the way down, of course, about the stages of development. Because I can't be about penalties without providing options. So now if I like what you're saying, so now I put in term limits for that. But then also I have counselors, I have career developers and people, programmers that then deals with the character, the nature of the person to guide their careers while they're waiting in that 7 years. See, because you just can't say 7 years, boom. Because now I got somebody say, all right, you got 2 more years. Oh, you got 3 more years. You know what? You got 2 more. You're almost done. You haven't chose a path or a career. But then I would like to say this, because I really believe that education should be a right and that it should be free. And I can look at the example of at least 12 countries that deal with it from high school to bachelor's degree. There has to be educate. There has to be a way to do that. I would like to hear ideas of how we make education free for all. And for the returning citizens, to me, if you want to have early release, you join in the military. Because I got to create a level of discipline
I like
that the military creates. They let people out. They let people out for early good time behavior. No, your good time behavior gonna be on a military base. While the 3 years you waiting to go home, it allows you to stack up a few dollars where the government don't have to take care of your butt. You've just earned your pay. Now you violate while you in the military, you're gonna be in prison for the rest of your life. There's no incentive, David. There's no people who really care about what happens to returning citizens until they reoffend. My job as a United States citizen is to protect the citizenry and to make sure that nobody that's going through them institutions come back out worse than when they went in. If that is the case, somebody got to get fired.
Okay, let's stop right there. Wait, stop right there, because I don't want to go back down the justice path. I think we talked about that enough.
I hear you.
Last thing I want to hear you comment on, because I know this resonates with a lot of people, especially a lot of Black people. And I should have had this video up. Congress is a U.S. Representative Jayam Paul. She recently came out and she said that immigrants. Listen to this. She said
not the reparation one.
Yes, she said illegal immigrants deserve reparations based on how they were treated by ICE. And I'm now let me also say parenthetically, I'm not a reparations person. I don't believe in reparations whatsoever. That said, that she would come out and use that language to say that people who are here illegally, who were processed by the federal government doing their job to apprehend and to deport them, that they deserve reparations from taxpayers, just shows you how out of touch the Democratic Party is. What are your because you kind of touched on immigration earlier. Let's end it there. Let's let people know what your thoughts are on immigration.
Listen, we know in this city, in this state, I ain't even going to Washington. We know in this state, based on evidence, that Illinois is the highest wrongful conviction capital in the whole country. And people was released by the thousands. Yet the Democratic Party didn't even talk about reparations for them, but they will talk about reparations for non-citizens. And you know, like I know, people have heard me. I'm never going to say, bro, I'm never going to be the one to tell the people what they should feel about something, David, even though I feel a certain way. I came out of prison after serving 21 years and created something. I'm never looking for the government help. I don't look for the reparations for no government. But if my people say they want reparation, my constituents say I'm going to present it. I'm never going to sit back and not present that. My behavior and me and your personal belief about it, David, is what it is. You're not gonna. I gotta represent my constituents from the top of the state to the city. So with that being said, bro, that's the most reprehensible thing in the world, and I still haven't heard even enough pushback when she said that from even the Republicans. Like, what are we talking about here? That is such a disconnect. Just like it was to give them their resources and leaving us out here to dry in these communities. And you know how I feel about that. I think I was one of the first one to go to jail when the bus pulled up.
I am one of these people, and again, people really pushed back on me as being unfeeling or unsympathetic or what have you. But
you cold, David. You cold. You cold. You cold. I would really like to dissect your brain and see your patterns, and then better understand. Listen, I'm cold. I make no excuses for slackness, weakness, and wrongdoing. I say me, but I never put my strength because nobody. I did 7 years in solitary confinement. Most people in America ain't gonna do a day in regular prison. So I don't ever put my strength, my mental and fortitude on the weakness or the negative thinking that others may have about a situation, circumstance.
That's not but that's not my ethos. My ethos is everything I have in my life. I worked hard. I got married very young. The 2008 crashed. The 2008 crash happened. I lost everything. And then I had to rebuild. And now today, at age 52, I have more today than I did, before the crash. What's my point?
You an exception. You're an exception like I was in prison. You're an exception to the rule.
But here's where I'll push back. Here's where I'll push back on that.
Yep.
The exception might be the outcome, but the effort was 100% me. I had to get up every day, and no matter if that day was good or bad, I had to tell myself, I've got to get through this day so I can push the ball up the hill a little bit more today. And then tomorrow I'm going to push the ball up a little bit
But that's
further.
the same thing I can say. The exception may have been the root, but me every day, David, I had to get up every day, go to school, study my book, read my lessons so that I could get my degrees.
My question to you is, My question to you is, and I've seen a lot of people in the chat that were talking about this. Here's what I'll say to what you just said. We need to put the same expectation. I would never put an expectation on someone else that I wouldn't put on myself.
That's right.
I would be a hypocrite if I asked someone to work harder than me. I'd be a hypocrite if I asked someone to sacrifice something that I'm unwilling to sacrifice. So that's when you say I'm hard, I'm not asking anybody to do anything that David Seaton is not willing to do. And if you're not willing to do it, then you can't complain when you don't get the same desirable outcome. Because everything that everybody has on this planet, everyone's had to work for everything they have. Some people might have had to work a little bit less than others because they had a head start. If your parents left you a trust fund when you turned 21, then you're going to have a head start to somebody who grew up in the inner city and they had to figure it out when they turned 18. But everything that everybody has is a function of the amount of work that you're willing to put in. I believe that, and I believe my life has shown that, and I believe your life has shown that.
No, absolutely. I am the exception of returning citizens. Yet, being the exception to the rule don't necessarily award you with any extra or additional help or support. While people are talking about this is what we want, reformation, and we want transformation, you know and I know, David, that the powers that be see Republican and Democrat, because you're perpetually discriminated against just because of your ex. They don't provide no assistance, no support when you find a lane to not need them. They find no assistance, no support, or accommodations to make that exception that you speak of, David, rewarded and give it ability to germinate and grow. They will give somebody more that does less than they would somebody like me who does exceptional with little. And this is the problem, man. This is why I'm running for United States Senate, to push against the establishment, to say that, hey, I am the everyday person. I know the feelings, the sentiments, I know the cues, the thought processes, and everything that germinates in these communities, these blocks, in this earth of our people who've been struggling to find a way. So I am that voice. I represent somebody that, you know, David, you can go to Washington. I can hear you and listen and say, hey, I need to put this forth as a policy. You're not going to do that with Juliana. You're not going to do that with Don Tracy. You're not going to even be able to go with them. It doesn't matter. They both operate from the same similar paradigm. I know what it is to have lack and want. I know what it is to be exceptional too. But I also know what it feel like to be discriminated against by no other reason but I got a scarlet X on my head. And bro, I'm only just saying, I know no one will speak for the people better than I will, and I have no problem turning over the money table table in Congress, and that's what happens.
Tyrone Muhammad, everybody. Like I said, I wanted to have this conversation with you, brother. You know what I'm going to do? I have been in touch with Don Tracy's campaign. If I invite him on, would you be willing to have a debate with him online?
I absolutely would have a debate with him.
All right, we're going to try and put that together.
He rather walk through hell and gasoline draws than to sit on it and have a debate with me. You tell him I said it.
Well, we're going to find out because we're in touch with his campaign. I really appreciate you hanging out tonight, brother. Like I said, we're going to tell the people really quickly your campaign website one more time.
That's it. That Tyrone, 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 FOR, for Senate.us. Tyrone for Senate.us.
All right, brother. I appreciate it. And we will be in touch soon.
Thank you, David. And I'll be on, I ain't gonna even say it. David, keep up the good work, man. This is a better platform for you because you can be yourself, accept your own, and be great in the space, man, whether they like it or not, bro.
I appreciate it, man. You have a great night. It's raining down there, so go ahead and be safe.
Thank you.
All right. Everybody, that was Tyrone Muhammad. I really am glad that he was able to come out and like I said, just have this conversation because, again, everybody, you know, if you want to see, like he did make a good point. Juliana Stratton, I'll probably never be able to interview her on this platform. She's going to go to the safe places where they're not going to ask her the hard questions. You know, and if I do have any one criticism of Tyrone Muhammad, I believe he's sincere. I believe that he's well-intentioned, you know, but he's really, really hard on that. He's really hard down that path of criminal justice, and he's going to have to learn to be comfortable talking about subjects outside of that if he's going to appeal to a larger audience, because like I said, criminal justice doesn't impact every Black person. Every Black person hasn't been to jail. And so I know a lot of times when people come out and they talk to Black people and that's the first thing and sometimes the only thing that they want to talk about, I, as a Black person, take offense because it sounds like you believe that you have to talk about that issue in order for you to resonate with me. And that's not going to be the case for all Black people, or that's not going to be the case for a majority of people. So that's, you know, if I had any feedback for him, that's what it would be. Don't you say WVN on here, thank you. That's Patah. I just said that. No mention, let's see, correctional officer posted, no mention of that voiceless of the Negro Motor station ever again. Yeah, I only mentioned it because it was germane because that's the last time that Tyrone and I actually had some conversations, and this was his first time on this platform. Marjorie Tatum, shout out to Marjorie Tatum. She posted, David, I think a person's environment and family structure is a factor in success, and yes, there are exceptions, but that doesn't mean all can achieve the same way. And I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. Where I have the biggest problem is that you do have a plurality of Black people who have convinced themselves that because they're Black, that they can't be successful, that there's some invisible barrier, that there's somebody out there standing in their way. There's someone who's waking up every day thinking to themselves, how can I stop Black people today? And I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I know that that's not true. But for the individuals who have been less successful for whatever the reason, be it family, be it environment, be it education, whatever, most people are not going to look themselves in the mirror and say, you messed up. They're going to say, oh, it's this person over here, or it's this over here. And that's a disservice to us as Black people to continuously blame externalities. And correctional officer mentioned, you know, the IDLC certificates, you know, and they may or may not. I'm sure they have a different worth, you know, in the general marketplace. But having gone through those exercises, when you have the option not to, when you're incarcerated, I still think that has some worth that is ineffable. That you would have the opportunity to go out there and continue to be antisocial when you're behind bars, and you take the time to invest in improving yourself, even if you go through the exercise of getting that certificate and it doesn't do anything but just train your mind on how to be productive. I think that has a lot of worth. Degrees and certificates are useless. Mike Burry's posted, you can't say I don't believe in reparations and then say I do believe in justice. And I disagree, Mike. I know you and I have had this conversation over the years, and perhaps I should have you on as well. But no, I don't believe in reparations really for one principal reason. Number one, anything that a descendant of a slave wants to achieve today, they can do it. If you get your credit score up to 750, if you get married, if you don't have children out of wedlock, if you become a homeowner, if you invest your money, if you make sure you have some life insurance, You try to go out there and buy a business or create a second revenue stream outside of your primary revenue stream. Take care of your credit. Don't go to jail. If you do those 9 or 10 things, you will be able to amass a net worth far greater than any reparations check would ever be. And number 2, if the government did start writing out reparations checks, we know a disproportionately high percentage of Black people are financially illiterate. A disproportionately high percentage of Americans, of people, are financially illiterate. So it would do nothing to write a bunch of few $100,000 checks and just start handing them out to people who are just going to just waste the money. Most people who, here's a statistic for you, Mike. 75% of people who win the lottery, and for those of you who might disagree with this number, you feel free to look it up and fact check me. 75% of people who win the lottery, when they win millions of dollars, are broke within 5 years. So if people who win millions of dollars are broke within 5 years, what's going to happen to the 19-year-old inner city Black youth who we just said earlier, graduated from high school and is not reading and math proficient, and you give them $400,000? They're going to be broke within 6 to 12 months. And then they're going to be even in more debt and in more dire straits from being sued or whatever than before they got that reparations check. So no, I don't believe in reparations at all. I think that there are plenty of ways and plenty of opportunities that Black people can be successful in 2026. And the only person that's standing in your way is you. Let's see, we've got Tiffany C. Pull. She came over from Facebook. She said she was having some trouble over there. So thank you for joining us over here. Everybody's going back and forth. Eric Stevens, he's being silly. He said he's buying stock in Newports and Swishers. So no, don't do that. We don't need to buy any stock in that. I do want to share one more video before we get out of here, because we've been hanging out for an hour and a half. I appreciate everybody who's been hanging out so far. But Brandon Johnson, there's something else that popped up for him today that he's just, I just can't even just fathom how this man has not retired yet. But let me share this video really quickly. If you didn't see this earlier
Mayor
today.
Brandon Johnson is trying to let go of another city leader. This time the guy in charge of Chicago's housing authority says he's not going anywhere, though. That's the group that runs public housing here. Paris Schutz talked to him and is here now with the latest. So what's going
Terrence,
on?
is a familiar story. Haven't we heard this before?
Yeah, at least 3 times now.
So this time it is the chair of the Chicago Housing Authority. Matthew Brewer is his name. But Mayor Johnson says he is no longer the chair. Brewer says, yes, he is. Johnson tried to fire Brewer and install another commissioner, an ally, Joanza Malone, to the post. But Brewer's not going anywhere. Now, the dispute is over a board vote to find a new CEO for the Housing Authority. They voted 7-2 to select a man named Keith Pettigrew. Now, he led the housing agency in Washington, D.C., but Mayor Johnson did not like that pick. So the mayor has been pushing for former 27th Ward Alderman Walter Burnett to get that job. Remember, Burnett resigned from city council. The mayor appointed his son, Walter Burnett Jr., to replace him, and Burnett angled to get this CEO job at the CHA. But Brewer and the majority of the board say that Burnett wasn't even a finalist in the search process, and Brewer explained to me in a sit-down just about an hour ago why he believes the mayor is coming after him.
I think he's disappointed because he didn't get the candidate that he wanted. And you can disagree with the result, but you can't ignore the process. And he's trying to invalidate the process. Keith Pettigrew, Mr. Pettigrew, is slated to start April 20th. Between now and then, I will continue in my role as operating chairman, and we'll continue to get Keith ready to start here. He's already had an opportunity to meet with resident leaders. They loved him. He's met with our entire staff here. They love him. And we would love to be able to chart a path for him to work with the mayor's office. If so, I'm certain that they will love him too.
So that's Brandon Johnson. Again, he's trying to strong arm his way to, he wanted Walter Burnett Sr. to be the head of the CHA. And he's on record saying that the reason why he thinks Walter Burnett would be a good choice is because he grew up in the projects. So because he grew up in the projects, that means that he would be good to run it. Again, this is why you don't put a 5th grade social studies teacher in charge of the 3rd largest city in the world, in the country. But here's to add insult to injury. When they did that vote, Brandon Johnson said that they violated the open meeting rules. He's quoted as saying they violated the open meeting rules and that he's going to try and fire this person, which he can't do. But you know who did violate the open meeting rules back in December of 2025, and Brandon Johnson didn't say a word? It was CPS, when they passed the maximum $25 million tax increase that they could pass, a property tax increase that they passed in the middle of the night in the end of December, and people were pushing back and saying that violated the open meetings rules. Brandon Johnson is not to be trusted, and he's fired a couple of people. He had the one person resign. He fired the deputy mayor of public safety. You've got violence spiking in the beginning of the year. Again, it's only April the 2nd, and we are seeing these murders and shootings spiking. As of today, April 2nd, I believe we've got about 25% as many murders as we had last year. I'm predicting this summer is going to be out of control. But the bottom line is that people are openly defying Brandon Johnson because they know it's down to the wire. He's got 1 more year as mayor. He's got polling that's no higher than 22%, some as low as 6%. And the sharks smell blood in the water. They know he's not going to win re-election. Matter of fact, go ahead, put in the chat. Do you think that Brandon Johnson is going to win re-election? I got a lot of pushback on the last platform that I was on because everyone else on that platform we're very pro Brandon Johnson. And I took every opportunity to hold his feet to the fire because that's the purpose of the Fourth Estate. That's the purpose of venues like this, is that we are supposed to hold our leaders accountable, not just tell them what they want to hear, not just try to give them a pass. And unfortunately, that's what the Black media has done in the city of Chicago for Brandon Johnson. And it's not just Brandon Johnson, it's Zoran Mamdani in New York, it's Karen Bass in Los Angeles. And I'm going to talk about some of those cities as well, because what's going on in New York City is shameful. What's going on in Los Angeles is shameful. And it's all a product of these far left progressive ideals we see coming out of these blue states and these blue cities. We've got to get some more Republicans in Springfield just to get a balance, because all these people know how to do is raise taxes, make it easier for immigrants. I don't know if a lot of you know, immigrants in the state of Illinois get financial aid to go to college. Let me say that again. Illegal immigrants in the state of Illinois can apply for financial aid to go to college. They just passed a couple of laws for jails in the state of Illinois, that if you have a tattoo that, they have those big like back tattoos or chest tattoos, that you can get free tattoo removal. They're giving them free calls, so they don't have to call collect anymore. Meanwhile, they're raising taxes. They're coming out with a tax right now. They're going to roll the pilot out to see if they can move from a gas tax to a mileage tax, so that you will have to pay taxes on the amount of miles that you drive in your car. They're trying to take away your Second Amendment rights. They're not doing anything about property taxes. Those are the things that you and I care about. I don't care about someone who snuck into this country and then makes their way to Illinois and or Chicago and or Cook County, and they're given free housing, free food, free daycare, free childcare, cars, money, places to stay. We have to finally stand up as Americans, and we have to, especially, let me say this to Black America, to Black Chicago, and to Black Illinoisans. If you don't like the direction that you see happening in Illinois and Cook County and in Chicago, you cannot vote for Democrats. Let me say that again. If you don't like the direction of Illinois, Cook County, and Chicago, you cannot vote for the Democratic Party. They have been in charge of this state, this county, and they've been in charge of Cook County and Chicago for decades. Nothing has gotten any better, and we've got to try something different if we want different results. So I'm going to end it right there. Thank you to Maytag Laundry for being a sponsor of this show. We've got some other sponsors who are in the pipeline. So if you would like to be a sponsor, or if you'd like to advertise on this show, just email us, email me and my team at thedavidseatonshow@gmail.com. And again, if you want to support this show financially, you have a couple of options and ways you can do it. You can always do a super chat. That's the easiest way, especially if you're on YouTube. You know, super chats is right inside of the platform. You don't have to leave. You can always send anything to Venmo at DA Seaton. You can send it to Cash App to the David Seaton Show. But like I said, do me a favor, like the show, share it, and make sure you are subscribed, and make sure your notification bell is turned on, because on Sunday at 7 p.m., we're going to have Chicago Flips Red joining us live. And that is going to be a fascinating show. It'll be my first time talking to them, so I'm really looking forward to that. Eric Stevens posted, I've been telling people for over 19 years we're going to have to pay IFTA and highway tax just like commercial vehicles do. I pay at least $2,000 a year on mileage tax and highway tax. Eric, at this point, I can't even argue with you, brother. I really can't. And it's ridiculous that how much you have to pay, how much we pay in taxes and fines and fees and license fees just for the privilege of saying that you stay in the state of Illinois. And J.B. Pritzker came out the other day and said, hey, if you don't like it, get out. That's his solution. He's hearing all of this pushback, and his solution is not to listen to the people. His solution is to say, if you don't like it, get out. Easy for him to say because he's a billionaire. Let me see. We got a couple of posts. Thank you. Robert York, he posted great job. Marjorie Taylor posted great show as always. And correctional officer, you and I need to connect. Email me at thedavidseatonshow@gmail, because you and I have been talking in the chat. You and I need to jump on something, and definitely we're going to probably be recording something this summer, like a cook-off or something. We're going to have to do something. Karen Hicks, I love Karen Hicks, great show. Correctional officer, he also posted, brother David, great show. Again, I appreciate everybody who's hanging out tonight. Go ahead and enjoy your weekend, but we will be back on Sunday at 7. Like I said, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and share the show. I appreciate everybody for hanging out as always, and we will see you on Sunday.